topic of concussions, as you all know, has recently become highly politicized. Scientific considerations took a back seat to political, media, and labor relations issues.
This January, Dr. Ira Casson, who served for years as the head of the NFL's Committee on Brain Injuries, testified before Congress that concussions in football are not well enough understood to prove scientific links to conditions like dementia.
There's no doctor's reports. There's no reports of neurologic exams. There's no reports of psychiatric exams in what's been published in the literature. It all comes from talking to the family members afterwards.
Tennessee Representative Steve Cohen was having none of it.
So isn't politicalization a little bit more important, just like erring on the side of caution and lives in the balance, rather than waiting for the ultimate perfect scientific data and how many more football players might have brain damage?
But Casson was undeterred by the criticism.
You need objective, scientific, medical examinations and studies so you can try to see if there's a clinical correlation between what you're finding in the brain and the clinical picture of the subjects. And that's not available.
Your predecessor, Dr. Ira Casson, told Congress in January that there wasn't enough evidence to prove that chronic head blows in football, quote, result in long-term brain damage. But then Dr. Ann McKee, another distinguished physician who studies this link, calls Dr. Casson, quote, the voice of denial. Now, what do you come down on this, Doctor?
First of all, Rich and I have been practicing for a long time in neurosurgery. We know that head injuries have adverse impact on people. That's not rocket science. It's not new. We know that there's adequate information now on a number of autopsies that Ann McKee has done. We listened to her presentation recently at a Hopkins conference. There is no question that repetitive head trauma can cause permanent damage.
How do you come out on it, Doctor?
I think it was a perfect storm of media attention, catastrophic event with kids on the field in all sorts of sports, that all of a sudden everybody said, we need to study this a little more carefully.
Would you put the questions about dementia developing in older NFL retired players in that part of the perfect storm?
Absolutely, I most certainly would, and it was the media attention to that grabbed everybody and said, well, I think we need to study this more. We don't know how many players, we don't know who's at risk, why are there so many players that never develop this. So I think that this is an evolving field, and I think you can do another show in a year and our knowledge will be tripled in this arena. So I think this is the nature of science. There's some catastrophic event that occurs and it sparks innovation and it sparks discovery.
You know, has there been a prospective randomized trial comparing concussed versus non-concussed players? No, there's not that level of scientific data. There's enough association that I think all of us are very concerned. There's autopsy data that's, it is what it is. And it shows evidence of permanent damage, we believe, from concussions.